doing fine tonight. We are coming to the end of the series on the relationship with the spiritual guide, the spiritual teacher. And so we've covered a lot of territory. So yeah, we've been through a lot of different topics related to this module. And so everything comes to an end. So even samsara hopefully will come to an end for all of us. We'll just hope sooner rather than later. Yeah, that would be great. I wouldn't mind that. So let's start preparing our mind for what we're about to do. So if we can have a conducive position for doing just a little bit of meditation first. Yeah, we're going to just be focusing on the breath to begin with. And we start observing the inhalation and the exhalation. And just letting all the thoughts and sensations and whatever emotions might be arising, we just let them go. We watch them go by like clouds in the sky without engaging, without following them, without making a story about what we're thinking. Just trying to keep our attention as long as possible on the breath. If we notice a distraction, if we notice that our mind has wandered, we just very gently bring it back without getting frustrated, without berating ourselves. We just go back to the breath with kindness and gentleness. If you notice that you're breathing shallow, you can pay attention and try to breathe deeper, because that brings more relaxation to both the mind and the body. And if it helps, you can also count one in and out breath counts as one. And you can go all the way to 10. If you get distracted, you go back to 1. And so let's gently switch from our meditation to our motivation. And so we ask ourselves, why are we here tonight? What's our purpose? And of course, we're trying to learn something. We're trying to expand our knowledge of Dharma, the Buddha's teachings. And in particular, with this module, we've been trying to understand this very important relationship with the spiritual guides. What is it all about? How do we relate in a proper way with these very important beings in our spiritual path, Um, and we want to do that because we want to try and get it right. We understand that uh, we need spiritual guides to show us the way. And we don't want to do anything that that would negatively impact that very, very special connection. Yet the overall goal, the arching objective, the umbrella objective, yeah, is to benefit sentient beings. We need a spiritual guide to show us the way, because ultimately what we want to do is benefit others. Along the way, we get to benefit ourselves, of course. You know, we are direct beneficiaries of our own efforts. But that's not our end goal. Yeah. Our end goal is to achieve a state by which we can help others. Truly help them. By helping them develop all their good qualities and abandon all the causes of suffering. So by really learning how to nurture our relationship with a teacher, you know, how to make ourselves proper disciples, proper vessels for the teachings, and we are really enacting the welfare of all beings. So let that be our purpose for tonight. Let that be what is motivating us to be here and to practice. So last time, excuse me. So last time, we had the opportunity to talk about the 7-limb prayer, the seven branches prayer that we use to make requests to the gurus, right? To connect with them, to make offerings, yeah, to make confession, etc. So we covered the first 4 branches: prostration, offering, confession, and rejoicing. And so we're going to cover the rest this evening. And I hope you had a chance to look at the Shakyamuni Buddha practice and get a chance to recite this 7-limb prayer, because it's a part. 7-limb prayer is really included in the Shakyamuni Buddha practice and in every practice that we do. Yeah, it's very much a part of every one of the prayers that we do, one of the practices. So, and of course, we can do it on its own. Yeah, but it's usually just included with several other things. And so the 5th component, the 5th branch of this 7-branch prayer or practice is to request the Buddhas to remain. Yeah. So here we are really asking the Buddhas to please stay. Please don't go into parinirvana, but rather be here, because we need you. We really need you to be here. Yeah, we're expressing, to the Buddhas that we want them in our lives. We want them to remain, because we know how important their presence is. We know that they have the ability to inspire, to guide, to be our models, our role models. Yeah. And if they're not here teaching, and there are many things that we couldn't do. We wouldn't know how to generate merit. We wouldn't know how to purify. We wouldn't know how to acquire or create the causes for a precious human rebirth. So we would be totally in the dark. You know, we'd be very much living in the dark. So the Buddhas bring light. They bring light into our world, into our life. So when we request the Buddhas to remain, we are acknowledging, yeah, that we'll be lost without their guidance. We'd be lost without their wisdom and compassion. So it's it kind of helps us face our situation. It really helps us look at it. Okay, this is where I'm at. I'm kind of in a vulnerable situation spiritually, and I really need this help. So it also generates an attitude of humility. It's like, okay, no, I cannot do everything. I don't know everything. And particularly, I don't know the path. And so I need the experts. I want the experts to be here, not just to guide me, but to guide all sentient beings. Yeah. So when we're talking about a precious human rebirth, right? Some of the fortunes related to having a precious human rebirth to do with the Buddhas. The Buddhas having been in the planet, in the world, the Buddhas having taught, their teachings remaining. Yeah, so the Buddhas are the ones who sort of their presence is what makes our life precious. Yeah, the presence of their teachings is what makes our life a precious human life. Otherwise, we wouldn't have that. So we ask them from our very heart to please remain. Then the next branch is to request from the bottom of our heart that the gurus and the Buddhas teach the Dharma to us and to all sentient beings for the same reasons that we just saw, yeah, with the point before us. And so I am reminded of the story of the Buddha's enlightenment. When the Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, yeah, he wasn't sure if there were people ready to hear what he had to say, if they were ready to have their eyes opened to what he had discovered. And he wasn't really kind of rushing to teach. He thought maybe not. Yeah. And it is said that Brahma had to ask him. You know, he told Buddha, please teach. There are beings right now in this world that have very little dust in their eyes. And they will be great recipients for your teaching. And so the gods had to ask Buddha to please teach. And so Buddha changed his mind and said, okay. And he found the 5 ascetics who had been his companions when he was practicing asceticism. And he found them and he taught. And that was the first teaching that he gave to them. And so we're following in those footsteps of requesting our teachers to please teach. And when we do that, when we make that request, right, our mind and our heart open to the teachings. That's another action of recognizing that we need to learn something. That we are not going to be self-taught on this particular topic. We cannot be self-taught. So then that immediately sets a different attitude in our mind and makes us more receptive to the teachings. Because really the way that the Buddhas help us is through the teaching. It is said that the Buddhists really cannot purify us with holy water. They cannot help us get rid of our suffering by just waving a magic wand or by saying some incantations. They cannot wash away our suffering. No. They cannot transfer the realizations to us. They cannot they cannot just get rid of all of our karma, all of our negative karma with one fell swoop. They just can't do that. A wave of their hand and we're enlightened. They cannot do that. But the way that they help us is by teaching. So by asking them to teach, we're really requesting their help. And by requesting their help, we make ourselves open to following their advice, to following their teachings. We make them more receptive. And that is that makes a big difference. Because it is true that when we start hearing the Buddha's teachings, we sometimes develop some resistance. We are resistant to change. We're resistant to change in so many ways. We may not see it, we may not believe it, but change is difficult. And the Buddha, when he's teaching, he's asking us to change our actions of body, speech, and mind, to change our conceptions, change the way that we view reality, the world around us, the phenomena, the way we view ourselves. But it's huge changes. And so we generate resistance to some of that. So when we request to teach, we're kind of creating some openness to kind of overcome that resistance, so that down the line, if we say, oh geez, I don't want to do that, well, we remember, excuse me, but I was the one who asked for that. So, I asked the Buddha to teach me, so now I have to figure out how to understand what he's trying to tell me. So that's why we do it. And the last part of it is dedication. So we dedicate. And dedication sometimes is easy to forget. We're in a hurry. We finish the practice, we're going to go. Or we do the dedication like rote. We just recite it in a very superficial way. Moving on to the next thing. But the dedication is just as important as everything else. And perhaps even more so, because it is the dedication that sort of seals the practice and sort of guides that energy towards a specific result. It's like putting money in the bank for a specific purpose. We say, okay, I just generated all this merit, and now I am going to wrap it up in a nice little packet, and I'm going to put it in my storage for later use, but for a very specific use, not for just anything, for this very specific use. And so it is said that, when we dedicate our merit, we're protecting it. We're protecting it from being destroyed by our anger, our hatred. Yeah. And so it's very important that we do, if we want to conserve that merit, if we want to keep it in the bank. And it is said that that merit that is dedicated, it is not exhausted until that result comes to pass that we've dedicated it for. So if we dedicate it for the enlightenment of all sentient beings, that merit will continue in our storage, in our bank account, until all sentient beings are enlightened. So that's very powerful. Yeah. So we're directing, really, when we dedicate, we're directing our merit, our positive energy that we've just created, to the very specific purpose, so that it cannot be destroyed. Yeah. It would be really sad if we put all of this effort in generated the merit, and then we forgot to dedicate it, and then we get angry, and then it's like, oh, there goes my merit. I've done that. Okay, I'm telling you because I've done it, and it's like, oh, there goes my merit, and I just didn't even get a chance to dedicate it. And then it's like double the pain. Not only did I get angry, which was already bad enough, but it's like I destroyed my merit, which is, even worse. So, we need to be careful. So, motivation in the beginning, yeah, and dedication at the end, and in the middle, well, the things that we do with bodhicitta. So the three important components: motivation, action with bodhicitta, and then dedication. Yeah. And sometimes the dedication is shorter, sometimes the dedication is longer. But, sometimes what happens is that because it's what happens at the end, and we're already tired from the practice, we just recite the verse without much feeling. But it's really helpful to really put some feeling into that verse. Yeah. To really make sure that we, from our heart, are dedicating the merit to this cause, and that we realize how important that result is for us and for all sentient beings. Yeah. So that we finish, we finish with energy, we finish with our heart. And I think that really sort of puts an extra oomph in our practice. Okay. So that is the 7 branches. And when we put them all together, yeah, they flow so beautifully. They really flow. And once we get used to the 7 components, yeah, it's easier to generate the different mental states that go along with this component. Yeah. Yeah. So the mental state of humility, the mental state of regret in the confession part for the negative actions that we've created. Yeah, the mental state of rejoicing that we visited, and we talked about how important it is and how much it helped us generate merit. Yeah, and then the mental state of um requesting the Buddhas to remain, yeah, from our heart, and then beseeching the Buddhas and the Gurus to teach, and then dedication. And it's such a complete, beautiful practice. Yeah. And once we memorize it, once we do it repeatedly, it just becomes really just a flow of positive mental states, very, very enriching. Okay. So let's move on to the question of how do we purify if we happen to make a mistake? If we happen to make a mistake in relation to our guru, how do we purify that? Because one of the things that the only thing that is good about negative actions is that they can be purified. It's about the only positive they've got. They can be purified. And we can purify any kind of negativity can be purified. So, and it's good if we realize that we've made some kind of a mistake in our relationship to our guru, that we try to purify that as quickly as possible. As soon as we realize it, so that that imprint doesn't stay long in our mental continuum. So that imprint can be immediately countered. And that helps us not to keep the propensity of repeating that action in our mind stream. And so there's like a formula. There's a formula to purify that can be done on the go, on the fly. Yes, wherever we are, in any situation that we are, for whatever mistake we've done, whatever negativity of body, speech, or mind that we've created, if we're familiar with this formula, we can just do it right there, immediately, and get that taken care of, that negativity. Of course, we don't just purify negativity one time. We try to purify several times until we get a sense that that weight, that negative energy, that sort of weight on our shoulders have really dissipated. And if we feel that, okay, it's gone, then we can say, okay, I'm fine. But it's good to purify actions several times. And so when we determine that, gee, I've made a mistake. And what kind of mistake could that be? Well, maybe I got a little bit irritated at my guru. Maybe I had a negative thought about my guru. Maybe I've seen, or I've started to really focus on something about the guru that I don't like, and I don't want it in my mind. I want to overcome that obstacle. And believe me, the mind can come up with all these obstacles. And the self-cherishing thought can put all kinds of barriers in our relationship with the guru. So we have to be very vigilant to see what's going on in our mind. To catch these things and really cut them before they become problematic. And so when we realize that this is what's happened, right? Immediately we generate regret. So, gee, I just did that. I wish I hadn't done it. This is not how I want to think about my guru. This is not how I want to relate to my guru. I understand the drawbacks. Of falling into the habit of this action of body, speech, and mind that is not conducive. And I don't want to fall into the habit of thinking that way, acting that way, speaking that way. So that's very clean regret. I wish I hadn't done it. I know I can do better. I want to have this relationship, be very positive. And therefore I'm gonna sort of make a correction here. I'm gonna make this correction in my behavior, in my way of seeing things. Yeah. So that's regret. I'm not saying I'm a bad person. I'm not saying I'm a bad student. I'm not saying I'm a horrible disciple. I'm not saying I deserve whatever punishment I'm gonna get for thinking this way about my teacher or saying this about my teacher. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, gee, this is a mistake. This is not something I want to do. I'm gonna immediately I'm gonna purify. And if we understand why, that's even better. So why is this not a good thing? Yeah, because then we go from just blindly panicking about something to actually understanding more objectively and more logically why is that something I want to engage in repeatedly. So that's the first step. We have to recognize that we've done something that we don't want to do. We regret it. We tell ourselves, I need to do something different, and this is why. Okay. So having acknowledged that and having recognized that, then we bring to mind the power. So that was the power of regret. So now is the power of reliance, which is also sometimes called the power of refuge. The power of reliance. Yeah. So we're going to rely on the Buddhas. We're going to rely on the three jewels and their guidance. Reconnect with them. Yeah, we're going to reconnect with the three jewels and the Buddhas who are inseparable from our teachers, from our gurus, and we're going to reestablish our commitment to the path, establish our commitment to following the Buddha's advice, and at the same time, yeah, we reconnect with our desire to benefit all sentient beings. Yeah, which is what's driving us anyway, which is what is the reason why we've entered into this relationship with a spiritual guru, is because we want to benefit sentient beings. So we kind of say, oh yes, I'm doing this because of that. Yes. Yeah, and yes, I'm following the Buddhist teachings, and I want to rely on the three jewels. I don't want to be separated from the three jewels. Therefore, I don't want to be separated from my guru. Yeah. So that's the power of reliance. We remember these connections, the connection to the three jewels, connection to all sentient beings. And if we have memorized the refuge verse or two, we can just recite in our mind the refuge verse and the bodhicitta with bodhicitta attached to it. And then we reconnect with them that way. And so the next step is the remedy. Yeah. So the remedy is any virtuous action that can counter the negativity that we have just created, that we're trying to purify. What could that be? If in this particular case, perhaps we can recite the foundation of all good qualities to remind ourselves about the guru and the good qualities of the guru, of what they bring to our practice and our life. You can recite that. But we can recite any other prayer. We can recite mantra. We can do the Vajrasattva mantra for purification. Yeah, so any virtuous action that will counter the negativity that we just created, that we're trying to purify, would be a remedial action. And lastly, the power of refraining from repeating that action. And we choose certain time frame during which we will not repeat the action, that we are purifying. Yes. It could be just a few minutes, it could be longer. The key is to make sure we're not going to repeat the action during that time frame, because we're telling the Buddhas, I am not going to do it during this time. So we have to be firm. We have to know that we can really refrain from the action during that time frame. So these four are called the four opponent powers. Yeah. These are the four opponent powers, and they are the formula that we use for purifying our negativities. And they can be used with the purification practices. They are included in the purification practice of Ashasattva. Yeah. And they're also included with the purification practice called the Bodhisattva Confession of Moral Downfalls, also known as the prostrations to the 35 Buddhas. Yeah, so this formula is used with those purification practices. Yeah? But even if we are not doing the actual purification practice, we can still use these four opponent powers just as I've described them. Yeah, and but it's good to memorize the Vajrasattva mantra, because then we can use the Vajrasattva mantra and sort of connect it with this method, and then you can just do your practice anywhere to purify right away as soon as you realize that you've made a mistake. It's interesting because it took me a while to realize the power of purification. Yeah, I guess my first years, some years, it might have been 5 years, might have been 6 years in Buddhism, the purification practice didn't click with me. I just really didn't. And I lost so many years where I could have purified. I really could have purified, and I didn't. So I think I would like to just convey that it is best to do that every day. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche really advised students to, in the morning, do the moral confession, the Bodhisattva confession of moral downfalls, also known as the prostrations to the 35 Buddhas, to do that in the morning. And then Vajrasattva purification in the evening. And then you've got all your bases covered. And then if during the day you realize you made a mistake, don't wait until the evening. Just do it right on the go. And then you're really, really covering all your bases. Yeah. But, once I really clicked in my mind that, oh, gee, this is so incredibly important, I've just, then it's like, okay, yeah, I need to do this every day. One of the most senior nuns in the West, and I was having a conversation with her, it was last year, and she said, it's crazy not to purify every day. I mean, that's really crazy, because we make negativities every day, every moment, so many, plus the ones that we've made in all of our previous lifetimes. So it's very important. And when we're talking about the relationship with our guru, it's also, very important that we keep ourselves as free of mistakes as possible. Okay. Now, what to do if things go wrong? Yeah. What to do if things go wrong? And sometimes they might. Sometimes they might. And so it's important for us to figure out, okay, what's the best way to handle a situation, a difficult situation in the relationship with the guru? Yeah. Because if we know what to do, then we can really avoid even more piling on more mistakes, piling on um, more negativity, right? Um, so if you find yourself at some point in your on your spiritual path, yeah, in a situation where you feel there's some kind of a strain in your relationship with your teacher, if you feel that you're perceiving faults, yeah, in your teacher, maybe you just can't, you keep on ruminating about the faults of the teacher. I mean, this happens. It sounds like it's far-fetched, but it does happen. Once in a while, the mind just goes very naughty. Yeah, our minds can be very naughty. And so we need to know, okay, how to manage that and what to do. Yeah. So, if we start perceiving faults in our gurus, ruminating about that can generate a lot of aversion in your mind towards the guru. And that can be just that can be very debilitating. That can really create some barriers between you and your teachers. Yeah? So when we feel that that's happening, when we realize, oh, gee, do not panic, do not panic, right? Just think to yourself, well, I have this situation and I want to fix it. I want to find some way of fixing it because I want to have a good relationship with my guru. So I'm going to step back. Yeah. I'm going to step back a little bit and give myself some space to generate clarity about the situation, to generate clarity so that I don't generate negativity, so that I don't impact negatively my relationship to my teacher. But I recognize I need some space to figure out what's going on in my mind. Yeah. You may also sometimes feel like maybe your teacher has hurt you. Or maybe you feel like your teacher has let you down in some way. His or her behavior may have shaken your faith in some way. Yeah. So then when you start thinking about that, again, do not panic. Just realize, okay, I need to just step back and try to get some clarity. Yeah? Because if we don't, then our emotions are triggered and we get very emotional and we go into spiritual disarray. Yeah. And then we cannot be skillful. Then we cannot think clearly. We cannot analyze. Yeah. And so it goes sort of downhill from there. Yeah. And also when we are in this kind of turmoil, internal turmoil, who can study? Who can practice? Who can learn when you're in this spiritual turmoil? And when you're feeling vulnerable, yeah, then it's really essential to sort of take some time to figure out, how do I control my emotions? What's going on in my mind? How do I feel less vulnerable and more secure? Yeah? How do I look at the situation from different perspective? Because we all have biases. All of us have biases. All of us look at situations through our different lenses, through our past experience, through what we have heard, yeah, through our own fears and insecurities. And so when something like this is happening with our teacher, we need to figure out, is this because of my insecurities, my own fears, my own lenses and biases? Yeah. What's coming from my side? What's coming from the guru's side? What's coming from other circumstances around? Maybe my own personal situation at home is influencing how I'm seeing things, how I am experiencing things. Yeah. And so when we're stepping back to try and gain some clarity, is it's very important that we have a clear motivation in our mind of not wanting to harm our relationship with our teacher. Yeah, it's important that we be very clear that we're trying to better understand what's going on in our mind. Yeah, yeah. So we are not turning our back on our teacher by stepping back and finding some space. We're not turning our back on our teacher. Yeah, and we're also not going to criticize our teacher, badmouth the teacher in any way. As such, those actions would be contrary and counterproductive to what we were wanting to do. So then how do we create space? Yeah, what is this creating space all about? It's about going inwards. Yeah. Because when we are criticizing or seeing faults in our guru, we're very externally we're very externally focused. Focus what's happening out there. Yeah, but when we're trying to get some space from the situation, what we're trying to do is go inward. See what's happening here in our heart, in our mind. Try to understand, yeah, where this is coming from. Yeah. And so the first thing to do is we go back to our refuge. We go back to our sense of refuge. Because it's refuge, it's that refuge in the three jewels that makes us feel safe. Is our commitment to our own practice, our commitment to our own spiritual development, our commitment to our values, to our compassion that makes us feel safe. That's our inner life. That's sort of um, uh, the inner source of happiness. And so we want to go back there. We want to remember the qualities of the three jewels. So, okay, I'm following the three jewels. I have them in my heart because they have these qualities that I admire, that I respect, that I want to build within myself. That's my purpose. That's why I'm doing this. Yeah. And then we can do some purification practices too, because purification practices help us calm the mind, clear the mind. I find that when I'm in turmoil, doing the the prostrations to the 35 Buddhas is a great practice because it involves the body, right? So I'm also getting rid of that anxiety energy and I am purifying at the same time. And I'm generating humility by just really having my nose to the ground. That's very grounding. There's a very grounding effect in just having your body stretched on the floor. So that's a grounding. And we want to generate that grounding. We want to be grounded in our practice, grounded in our values, grounded in our refuge when we're going through these kinds of turmoil. Yeah. And then we can engage in this practice of the seven limb prayer. When we're requesting. We can request clarity. We can request peace of mind. And we can request objectivity. Yes. And so all of these things. And this is going to take time. This is not something we can do in one day. And we have to be open and gentle with ourselves to let it take the time that it's going to take. Let it take the time that it's going to take. And so, we remember that our connection with the Buddhas and the three jewels is a very personal connection. Very personal. So that connection that is so personal at a heart level is really what keeps us engaged, motivated, is what keeps our compassion flowing, and keeps us focused on our spiritual goals. So when we're taking this step back and generating this safe space has all of these components. Yeah? These are very nurturing elements in our practice. So we try to get ourselves nourished. We try to get ourselves nourished by purposefully reconnecting with all of these elements. In particular, we revisit and get in touch with the Buddha's desire to benefit us. Their only desire to benefit us. Yeah, so we connect with that so that we can feel that we're getting attention from the Buddhas. Yeah. That the Buddhas are not forgetting about us. They never do. So we need to be quite certain of that. So that helps establish peace and clarity. Another practice that helps a lot when the mind is in turmoil is the breathing meditation. Yeah, we can use all these tools. Yeah, all these tools we can use to help us subdue the emotional turmoil and get clarity. So, and we can remember that if we need the support of another practitioner, we can get the support of another practitioner. We can get the support of someone who would understand where we're coming from and what we are doing. Yeah. So we don't have to go it alone. We don't have to do it alone. And so it's important that we while we're doing all of this, keep our teacher in a very good space in our heart as much as possible. Yeah. And if we can think of the good qualities of that particular teacher, that would be very helpful too. Yeah. Because we probably cannot say, that teacher in this hypothetical case only has negative qualities or faults. Yeah. The truth is, if that person has been our teacher for some time, that person has benefited us greatly. And so we have to remember and weigh that. Yeah? So once our mind is calm and clear, and our emotions are more subdued, then we can go and reflect upon the specific situation. Yeah. In order to just really look at what's happening, sit with it. Just sit with the situation and look at it from a very honest and objective point of view. We can acknowledge that it's caused us pain. We can acknowledge that it's difficult, yeah. But we can also acknowledge that we want to heal. That we want to understand what's going on. Yeah. Because this painful situation with our teacher could feel like a wound, yeah, could feel like a cut, like some kind of a spiritual sore point, yeah, that we want to heal. But in order to heal that wound, yeah, we kind of have to clean it up first, and that's painful, that's uncomfortable. So when we're sitting to contemplate and reflect on the situation, that may be uncomfortable, but we have to do it because it's the way to heal. We cannot just suppress it. We cannot ignore it. We cannot bypass it. We have to really gently, wisely, compassionately review what happened, how it happened, how we got to this point. Yeah. And it may be that the feelings, the emotions will arise again. Yeah. But it's important that we um, not suppress those feelings, those emotions. Hang on with them. Hang on with them and feel them and let it pass. They are impermanent. As much as we think that these emotions are so tough to deal with and they are so overwhelming, and they pass because they are impermanent. They cannot be with us forever. So we observe them, we feel it, acknowledge them, accept them, and then we let them go. We don't cling to them. Just, okay, they will dissipate because they are impermanent. Just like everything else around us, they're impermanent. And they'll go away. You can use your breathing if you feel overwhelmed by emotions as you're recollecting the situation. You can just use your breathing to let them go, to stabilize your mind and your body. Yeah. And then you can ask yourself some questions as you're pondering the situation. Yeah. For example, is the situation arising because you have unrealistic expectations of your teacher? Or because you're projecting some things on your teacher that are not there? Yeah. Sometimes we expect our teachers to give us a lot of attention, to solve our problems, to soothe every one of our mm, difficult moments. But um, they cannot always do that because they have so many students. Yeah. Sometimes we don't want to share. Sometimes the teacher is paying more attention to another person, and we feel like that's a slight to us. He's ignoring me. This is hurting me a lot because the teacher is ignoring me. Or the teacher just pointed out one of my faults that I'm most insecure about. And he or she did that in front of a group. Wow, this is horrendous. Yeah, so we have to deal with all that. So we have to be very clear. What is causing this? And is it because I'm expecting something or projecting something? Or maybe it's because the teacher just pushed the button. That's very tender in me. So we have to clarify that. Yeah. Maybe the teacher just has some annoying habits. Some annoying habits that have nothing to do with my spiritual path, have nothing to do with his or her ability to teach and to guide the students. But I find them annoying. And every time I sit there to listen to the teacher, I had to deal with all the aversion, frustration that these annoying habits cause. And boy, do we get triggered. We have like buttons everywhere, and those buttons can be pushed in any which way at any moment. I'm going to share a story from one of my teachers. So, my teacher was telling us that she got to a situation where she couldn't understand why her teacher had a different political view than she did. Yeah. And this was bothering her. So this teacher that was so perfect, so compassionate, so wonderful in so many ways, thought that a politician was great. But my teacher thought that politician was bad. And she couldn't understand why her teacher kept on saying good things about that politician when that politician was just horrible. And she had to that became a stumbling block for her. It's like, so she did this. She started to analyze the situation. What's going on? Why am I feeling this aversion? Why am I having this reaction? And then she figured it out. This has nothing to do with my spiritual path. My teacher can like that politician. Of course, my teacher is going to like everybody because my teacher has compassion. I'm the one who doesn't have compassion for this other politician. But I'm going to focus on what's important, which is what my teacher is teaching me about the spiritual path. And the moment that got cleared in her mind, the obstacle passed. And she said, yeah, of course my teacher's going to like everybody. Because they like everybody, they're compassionate for everybody, they have an open heart. It's just that she didn't like that person. So that created a problem. Yeah. But once she clarified what was going on, she said, no problem. Yeah. My teacher is showing compassion, understanding, openness. That's what's good for me. My teacher being an example of openness, compassion, understanding, even for someone that I don't think deserves all that. So anyway, and then she grew. She grew to understand, oh yes, this is it. Yeah. So this is an example of, sometimes we find some of our teachers' stuff annoying, but those things and habits have nothing to do with our spiritual education. So we need to be able to differentiate that. Sometimes our teacher may have an accent, or maybe they have some kind of a weird way of explaining things. But is that how much of a problem is that? If the words that the teacher is saying are Dharma. So yeah, so we need to sort of sort it out in a contemplation and reflection mode. What really is going on in our minds without judging ourselves, without being too hard on ourselves, because we are learning. We're students, we're learning, we're not perfect. If we had it all figured out, we would be with it, Buddhists. Yeah, so we don't have it all figured out, that's fine, but we're working on it. We're working on figuring it out. So that's the important part. Yeah. Um, and then we can always then we start thinking about, is this problem or this issue that we are perceiving in our guru, yeah, negating all the guru's other positive qualities, all the guru's other contributions to my spiritual growth? Is just this thing that I'm focusing on negating all the other good stuff. And then we can weigh that in. Yeah. We can also remind ourselves that appearances are deceiving. Yeah. We cannot, judge by appearances. I have another example of this one. Someone in a class that I was facilitating wanted some help, wanted some advice because the teacher that they were going to was teaching and was always looking at his phone. So the teacher had the phone with him and was always looking at the phone as he was teaching. And this person is like, why is he doing that? Why is the teacher looking at the phone when he's in the middle of a teaching? I can understand that. They tell us not to bring in our phone or to turn off the phone because they don't want to be distracted. And here is the teacher looking at the phone all the time. She couldn't get through that. And so I said to her, listen, what if he's expecting an important call? Maybe somebody is needing help and he's waiting for that person to call. Or maybe someone he knows is in the hospital. Maybe someone's in the hospital dying and he's waiting for a call to see when they want him to come in. Or maybe he's recording his talk for someone that has requested that and he's trying to figure out if the phone is still recording. Yeah. So there's so many ways, so many things that could be happening with the phone thing. Have nothing to do with the teacher not paying attention to what he's teaching. So once I gave her this different perspective on that action, she was like, oh, okay, yes, could be some of that. So then we have to ask ourselves, yeah, when I see this outside behavior, does it really indicate what I think it does? Yeah. Or maybe it's just a deceptive appearance and I'm just making it up. My mind is just making it up. My critical mind is running amok and I'm making something up that has no basis. Another story about how we can make stories about things that we don't quite know about. So there was a Tibetan lama, an older Tibetan, very much older Tibetan lama teaching, and there was a young man translating. Yeah. And at some point, I don't know how far along the talk. It was quite far along. It must have been almost towards the end. But it looked like, because they were speaking in Tibetan, so it's hard to know. No idea what was happening. But the Lama, when started talking fast and sort of animated and talking fast, and the young man, the translator, started laughing, but nothing was being translated. So, and Steve, what is going on? This is very weird. And then I thought, well, it's very rude of the translator to laugh like that, and he's being incompetent because he's not translating, and maybe the Lama is sort of berating him for something he said that he shouldn't have said, that maybe was not properly translated. So I started to make stories about what was going on. And of course, that I was distracted. I was no longer paying attention to anything else, but just distracted about what was going on, and letting my critical mind go on and on and on. So after the teaching, yeah, because I happened to know the guy who was translating, I found out that the reason this all happened It's because the lama, who was really an older, I mean, he was a very senior lama. It's a beautiful, beautiful lama. And he had been teaching for a while, and he needed to go to the bathroom. And he was telling the translator, can you just wrap it up quickly so that I can go to the bathroom? And that's why the translator was laughing, you know? So sometimes we get these crazy ideas, yeah? And it's good to figure out what's really going on. Now, so there are times that even if we do all of these, we may not be able to come to terms with whatever is going on. We may not be able to make peace with it. We may not be able. Yeah. We may not be able to solve our dilemma or to bring some peace to our mind. And so if that's the case, yeah, um, the teachings, in particularly the Kala Chakra Tantra is, I didn't know this until I read it in the transcripts that you have, the handouts that you have. But in there, if you look, it does mention that in the Kala Chakra Tantra, it says that if a student finds too many objective faults, so real faults, in the teacher, and can no longer have a close relationship with that teacher, it is permitted to discontinue studying with that person. Yeah. The caveat is, yeah, you have to also maintain an attitude of respect. Yeah. An attitude of respect and an attitude of gratitude for everything the teacher taught you up to that point when you decided to step back. Yeah. So that's the caveat. So if you have to, at some point, I hope that you don't have to, I hope you never encounter any such situation. Yeah. But at least keep some, give the teacher the benefit of the doubt in your mind. Yeah. Hold the teacher with respect and gratitude for everything he or she taught you, and give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe what you saw or what you think is still just something in your mind that you still need to, it might clear it up at some point in the future. It's just how you're not perceiving something correctly. Maybe something in there is not quite right. And maybe at some point in the future, you might see it with different eyes. So always leave that door. Leave that door for the future, because it might change. You might come after a while to a different conclusion, and you want to have that door open in your mind. And in the meantime, maintain a respectful attitude and grateful attitude towards that teacher. And that way, you will not generate negativity. You will not generate heavy negativity. Yeah. So, okay, so that's the end of the teaching for this module. And so we have just a few moments for a question or two. Yes, Jennifer?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, my root guru is now dead, and I was wondering if you have any tips with what you think I should do now with or just having a guru that's dead, if you have any tips for me.
I think one of the things that is useful is to realize that what a great fortune you had in your life to have met this particular guru.
Yeah.
Great fortune. And count yourself among the few. Count yourself among the few beings on this planet who have that fortune. And then make prayers to meet your guru again in a future life.
Oh, okay.
May you meet him again. May you recognize your guru in whatever form he decides to come back and show himself to you or herself to you. Make you recognize the guru. Not just meet the guru again, but may you recognize the guru and may you follow his or her advice. Yeah?
Okay.
Make prayers every night for that.
Okay.
To
All right.
create the causes in every lifetime, never to be separated from your gurus, to meet them, to recognize them, to follow their advice. And I think that would be very good practice.
Meet them, recognize them, and follow their advice. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And then Scarlett.
Hello, Venerable. I'm really happy that you spoke about the Shakyamuni Buddha sadhana. So I was doing this sadhana, but then I think I have wrong view because I became very uncomfortable about this line and I stopped practicing it because it just kind of made me feel very frightened. So I'll read you the lines. You're familiar with the one. It's by Lama Zopa from FMPT. You're familiar with what I'm talking about, right?
I'm familiar with the Shakyamuni Buddha practice.
Yes.
There are some variations from one tradition to the other. So please read the line and then I'll let you know if I'm familiar with that
Right.
line.
So it's page 25. It's almost the end of the sadhana, and it says, please bless me to practice, sorry, please bless me to protect them even at the cost of my life. Right? Um, I don't know. That is very scary. I mean, I think I don't have right view. Like, I just don't feel like anything is to be the cost of my life for. Yeah, yeah. Can you like help me?
Yeah, yeah. So there are some concepts in Buddhism that take time to get used to. Yeah, we need to mm, we need to build the foundation in order to accept certain concepts in Buddhism. Yeah. So we start like little babies. We don't know how to walk at first. We don't know how to talk at first. Just like little babies exploring our environment. And then maybe we learn to say a few words. We learn to just crawl. Then we perhaps try to, walk a little bit. And it's a process of evolving. It's a process of growing. And so we have a similar process in our spiritual growth. We start like little kids and then we grow. And part of that growth is that slowly, our minds um, open up, and start accepting things that in the past caused us resistance. Yeah. And so this thought of not breaking my vows or not breaking my precepts at the cost of my life, or not giving up, the guru at the cost of my life, not giving up my refuge at the cost of my life. Those are things and ideas that take a long time to get used to. Yeah. But we start familiarizing ourselves with them from the get-go so that our mind can begin to work with them and absorb them. Yeah. But we're going to bump into a lot of this as we move further into the teachings. Because our minds are wrapped up into self-cherishing. Yeah, our minds are wrapped up into thinking that we are our bodies. Yeah, our minds are wrapped up into thinking I'm number one and my life is the most important thing. And that's okay. That's just where we are, no problem. But as we mature in the Dharma, we begin to let go of those thoughts. We begin to diminish our self-cherishing. We begin to understand that, okay, I'm not my body. We begin to understand that there are things that are more important in our spiritual development than this body. Yeah. Than my focus on me first, always, that sort of thing. And so it's okay if right now this is causing you some unease. It's okay. You don't have to believe in it right now. Just sort of, you can repeat the line. It's just a line. But this thing, the more you repeat the line, the more your mind is gonna get used to that thought. And at some point, it's not gonna generate so much aversion or fear. Yeah. And then when you learn how to, when you learn the different methods to diminish self-cherishing, and these lines and these thoughts about maybe maybe I can, this is more important than my life, won't be such a shock. Does that help?
Well, I really would like to have this as my sadhana, but I really had stopped because of that line. I just want to know if you can kind of help me to understand it in a way that doesn't frighten myself and doesn't make me highly uncomfortable. I was skipping that line. Like I started saying, okay, I'll just skip it. Um, yeah, but I haven't been able to resolve it and I just kind of stacked it into my drawer. But as I'm like participating in this and as you spoke about this, I thought, what merit, what perfect time to ask you, how can I understand what it's trying to say and not be afraid of it? And I don't have to, like you say, really fully understand it, but I can be comfortable to not like have aversion to this
Yeah,
practice because
yeah,
I think this practice is very helpful, and I hear a lot about it too. Okay, if you don't have a guru, like I don't, it's a good way to start. Like, this is a good kind of practice, and while you're reading up and listening to Dharma. So, can you please help me?
yeah. So there is a particular practice that I used to do that I loved. I loved the practice, except for that one line that I didn't love. I mean, I had the same situation with a different practice. There was a line, maybe two lines in a verse that I just couldn't say, and that I skipped. I skipped every time. I left the other parts of the practice I loved. Those lines I skipped. And I find that it's okay to skip them. I found that it was okay to skip them. I would replace, then after I skipped them, then I started replacing them with a line that I could actually accept and be comfortable with. Yeah. So then I started to do that. And then after I started to do that, I realized I began to learn more about what those two lines really mean. And then I became more comfortable, but not 100% comfortable. I cannot say that I'm still 100% comfortable with those lines, but I'm more comfortable than I was. And this is taking me, I would say, at least 6 years, maybe more, just find comfort with those two lines.
I
So you
was
can
Yes, sorry, Aunt Venerable. I was doing that, but then I felt like maybe I'm not being authentic. But what is that line trying to tell me that many practitioners can say it and be comfortable, and I don't have the insight to be comfortable?
can you read the entire
Yeah,
verse, please?
yeah, yeah. So it's almost the end of the sadhana, and it says, at that time, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments is keeping my vows and
And
samadhi
Samaya. Mhm.
purely. When
Yeah,
I
purely.
have gained effortless conviction in this, please bless me to protect them even at the cost of my
Cost of
life.
my life. Yes, yes. Okay. Okay. So this is part of the foundation of good qualities prayer. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's the foundation of good qualities prayer, I think.
It's
And so
yes, mantra recitation, and then it goes, I think so. Yeah, it doesn't really say the foundation. It doesn't give a heading of it,
yeah.
but it's to the
So
end.
so what it's telling you is that at the very advanced stage of practice, okay? And this is when practitioners are doing tantric practice, which is very, very advanced. Yeah. Certain commitments that they make, so certain vows that they take. Yeah. Those practitioners made the commitment not to break those at the cost of their lives. So this is a very advanced practice. You don't have to worry about this practice now when you're just starting, okay? So it's very, very advanced. So if you don't want to repeat this whole verse, what you can say instead to yourself is, may I, at some point in the future, develop comfort with this idea of being able to hold my commitments more dear than my life. May I at some point develop the openness in my heart to do that? And maybe just leave it at that. May I at some point be able to practice in this way? I'm not there now, and that's okay. And then just leave it at that as an aspiration for future practice.
Got it. And do I skip it at this point? Like, can I skip that four line, but skip it, but say that sentence you just said?
Yes, as
Oh,
I would do, that's what I would do. I would skip it, but instead of that, I would say, may I in the future, please help me so that I may in the future be comfortable with this type of practice where I can consider my commitments more important than my life. And
oh,
then you just made that aspiration and request to the Buddha. The Buddha will hear you, and I have no doubt the Buddha will help you attain that. But you're not ready yet, and that's totally fine. Yeah.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you for clearing it up. And I'm going to reflect and not make me feel anxious about it or uncomfortable or I really had a lot of like uncomfortableness about it. So thank you so much.
I've been there, totally been there,
Oh,
so no problem.
okay. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, so we're um, we're kind of over time, and I was thinking that we would have some reflection about this last portion about how to manage problematic situations with our guru. So we don't have much time, but let's at least do 5 minutes. I think maybe we can do 5 minutes of a very short reflection, how you've taken in this information, and how how you might want to um, mm, use it. Hopefully, you'll never have to, but what are you taking away from this that would help you deal in the future with any situation that might come up of an obstacle in your relationship with your teacher? Just do that for 5 minutes. Okay. So thank you. Thank you for for all the questions, for your participation, and have a wonderful evening. And I'll be doing the next one, TB5 on impermanence. So for those of you who might want to continue, I think that's starting March. I think it's starting in March. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. See you.
Thank you so much, Venerable.
Let's do the dedication. Let's do the dedication prayers before we depart. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure Losanjarpa's teachings to shine forever. May the precious supreme bodhicitta not yet born arise and grow. May that arisen not decline but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Shenresi Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings, through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Okay, now we can go. Good night, everybody.